Let's now take a look at some functions and find their horizontal and or vertical asymptotes. So our first example is y equals 3 times 4 to the x minus 1. If I graph this function, first of all, I notice it's exponential. Exponential functions tend to have horizontal asymptotes. So notice if I look at this function, it has a horizontal asymptote at y equals negative 1. But exponential functions do not have vertical asymptotes, and so this does not have a vertical asymptote. So it has one asymptote, a horizontal asymptote at y equals negative 1. And you would notice that as x got really close to negative infinity, as we run this graph off to the left, that the y values get very close to negative 1. And in fact, we can make the calculator round it off to negative 1 if we happen to go far enough out. Now suppose we had y equals log of x plus 3. This is a logarithmic function. Logarithmic functions have vertical asymptotes, not horizontal asymptotes. So notice I reflected that by saying this has no horizontal asymptote, but the logarithmic function has a vertical one, and as I mentioned in the previous video, we can actually determine that vertical asymptote by looking to see what the argument, what's inside the parentheses, would cause that expression to equal 0. That expression is equal to 0 when x is negative 3. And notice by looking at my graph, I notice that it does appear to have that vertical asymptote at x equals negative 3. So again, exponential functions have horizontal but not vertical asymptotes. Logarithmic functions have vertical but not horizontal asymptotes. So there's a few problems in your homework. You might want to make sure that you go back and you review those, because that will be something that might give you a little bit of difficulty as we move through the course. The how do we get horizontal and how do we get vertical asymptotes.